morning glory. I hope everyone had a wonderful, peaceful, joyful holiday season, a great new year, and here at Aspen Tower, we are plowing straight ahead into Valentine's Day. So welcome to the first Behind the Cooler episode of 2026, episode 4, Valentine's edition. I've got to tell you, more than 3 decades later, my mind is still completely blown by what it takes to pull off Valentine's Day. Because sometimes people forget, it's not just the biggest floral holiday in the United States, it's an international holiday. For the most part, traditional full-service florists have 3 sales peaks during the year. We just came out of December, which is the biggest floral month of the year. Mother's Day is the largest floral week of the year, and Valentine's is the largest floral day of the year. Valentine's Day is one massive, high-pressure global event that hinges on one specific date. Right now, we're on track following that pattern, and this will be my first Valentine's Day here, so it's going to be an interesting one. What most people don't realize is this: we've already been in Valentine's season since right after Thanksgiving. Starting around December 1st, prices begin to slowly start to creep up. And I've been watching it happen week by week. Those prices will continue to slowly rise right up until the week of Valentine's. Then something interesting happens. They level out by the week of the 14th, or the day of the 14th, for about a week. And somewhere, usually between February 24th and 27th, the prices fall straight back down to normal and stay there until Thanksgiving rolls around again. And what makes Valentine's Day so fascinating isn't the flowers themselves. It's what has to happen behind the scenes to make that one single day possible. I'll be honest, florists, in my opinion, we're just the peons in this holiday. There's absolutely no way whatsoever we could pull off what we do without thousands of people in the background working months leading up to the week of February 14th. The real heroes of Valentine's Day are the growers, the cutters, the packers, the inspectors, the cargo crews, pilots, air traffic controllers, the logistics teams, everyone working behind the scenes long before a single rose ever hits our doorway or our cooler. And now I'm going to explain why Valentine's Day flowers cost more, what actually goes into getting us ready for this holiday, and why after 36 years, it still blows my mind. So let's get into it. I know the number one complaint of Valentine's Day is the cost, especially of roses. And we're going to break it down why, and it's frustrating for florists. I can't tell you how many times we get accused of price gouging. We're just the greedy florists, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, we have absolutely nothing to do with it. So, since Valentine's Day is an international holiday, the entire world is buying flowers at the same time. And that matters a lot. First things first, and I want to be clear, florists are not price gouging you on Valentine's Day. Honestly, we kind of get shafted too. Roses don't magically cost more because florists wake up greedy in February. Our everyday roses retail anywhere from $3.50 to $10 per stem, depending on hybrid, quality, stem length, bloom size, country of origin, and supplier. Once we're into full Valentine pricing, those numbers can double or even triple per stem. Valentine pricing starts long before February 14th and nowhere near any flower shop for the most part. So why do prices rise? Valentine Day pricing is caused by a perfect storm of factors that all peak at the same time, starting with extreme global supply and demand. Roughly 250 million roses are grown specifically for Valentine's Day worldwide. This isn't spread out over weeks or months. This demand hits one day, February 14th, which, by the way, it falls on a Saturday this year, just so you know. When the entire planet wants the same product at the same time, prices go up. Interestingly enough, Valentine pricing actually starts inching up in early December. I know, you're now thinking, what the heck? Well, here's the part no one knows or explains. Most Valentine roses most roses in general, do not grow in the United States. They're grown primarily in Colombia and Ecuador near the equator, which gives growers consistent daylight year-round. But that doesn't mean it's cheap or effortless. Even in Colombia and Ecuador, producing roses at Valentine scale requires industrial-level farming, not nature doing the work alone. That means massive commercial greenhouses. These aren't backyard operations. They are controlled environments covering several acres. They have to be climate controlled. While they don't battle winter like we do, growers still have to control temperature swings, humidity, airflow, pest and disease risks. One bad decision can wipe out an entire crop. Artificial lighting with strategic use is used to control growth cycles, timing, and uniform blooming, especially leading into Valentines. There's water management and irrigation. Water is carefully regulated to prevent root disease while still pushing bloom production. So even in ideal growing regions, Valentine's roses are engineered on a schedule, not just grown. Energy costs spike, infrastructure costs spike, again, not the florist. Once later in January hits, it's harvest time. Those roses are cut. They must stay cold every second until they reach our vases. That means refrigerated truck, refrigerated warehouse, refrigerated cargo planes to get millions of roses blooming at the same time. Growers must start preparing months in advance, usually between about Thanksgiving and early December. They do this through a process called deadheading. Deadheading means they are intentionally cutting off healthy rose bud heads, discarding them, their blooms they could otherwise have sold, forcing the plant's energy into future growth. They are destroying sellable flowers on purpose so everything blooms together in late January to mid-February. That's lost revenue right off the bat. I mean, we're talking millions of roses that's just... Then the growers' labor costs explode because when growers start deadheading, payroll increases because each grower now has an explosion of seasonal employees coming in to handle tens or hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of rose plants. That means more skilled labor. Deadheading and timing blooms is not entry-level work. It's more pruning and hand care. Every plant is monitored intentionally. There's increased watering schedules because stressed, fast-growing roses require more water, not less. There's higher fertilizer use to force controlled synchronized growth, more temperature and humidity control to keep the plants from aborting buds or blooming too early. Then January hits and labor ramps up all over again because now the roses aren't just growing, they're moving. From greenhouse to plain, roses are cut in the greenhouses at the correct stage. Workers are trained to visually reject obvious problems immediately. Insect damage, disease, malformed heads, weak stems, anything clearly bad never leaves the greenhouse as a premium quality product. But if you want to know what happens to the rejects, I'll give you a hint. Check out episode 3 of Behind the Cooler where I explain why grocery store flowers are so cheap. If you know, you know. Moving on. They go into their first inspection. Field level sorting. Roses go to initial sorting tables. Workers remove damaged stems, separate them by stem length and head size, cull anything suspicious, and this is where early pest disease detection happens before bundling. Once they're sorted, they go into hydration and conditioning. Approved stems go into hydration solutions, temperature is stabilized, and this helps reveal hidden problems. Weak necks, botrytis, which is a fungal disease that can destroy thousands of roses if conditions aren't controlled perfectly, and bruising that wasn't obvious when freshly cut. Then they send them through a second inspection, pre-bundling quality control. After hydration, stems are rechecked. Anything that now shows issues is pulled. They do not want one bad stem contaminating an entire bunch. Now they're ready to be bundled or bunched. Only approved stems are bundled, 10 to 25 per bunch, depending on grade. Ours typically come in 25. Specialty high-end roses like Dave and Austin garden roses are usually in 10 to 12s, and then the bundles are sleeved. At this point, stem length is locked, grade is assigned, variety lots are finalized. Now it's on to their final inspection, post-bundling quality control. Random bundle checks for disease, insects, moisture, uniformity, compliance with export standards, and after passing this inspection, then they go back to packing and cold chain, and then bundles are boxed, boxes are labeled, they're immediately moved into cold storage and prepped for air freight. Every single step adds up. Any break in the cold chain risks dead flowers. And speaking of air freight, there's the planes. From farm to airport, still cold, still controlled. Once roses are cut, graded, inspected, and bundled at the farms in Ecuador and Colombia, they are immediately placed back into cold storage. At this point, everything is about temperature, humidity, and time. Roses are kept just above freezing, hydration is controlled, airflow is constant, boxes are stacked by grade, stem, length, destination. From there, they are loaded into refrigerated trucks and driven directly to the airport. No scenic route, no sitting around. Time is money and freshness. Arrival at the airport for organized chaos, and this is where it gets wild. At airports like Bogota and Quito in Ecuador, flowers are one of the top exported products, especially in January and early February. At the cargo terminals, shipments are logged, manifests are checked, temperature is verified, boxes are scanned and tracked. Everything is staged by flight, number, destination. Flowers do not sit outside, ever. They are moved through climate-controlled cargo warehouses designed specifically for perishables. Loaded onto cargo aircraft. In the weeks leading up to Valentine's Day, flowers are loaded onto dedicated 747 cargo planes. Additional wide-body cargo aircraft and passenger planes with flower shipments in their cargo holds. The priority is speed. Roses fly direct to Miami International Airport, the main floral gateway for the U.S. The last numbers I heard were around 750, give or take, Boeing 747 cargo planes a day landing at Miami International Airport during peak Valentine season. That's on top of their regular commercial flights. That's not hyperbole, that is controlled chaos. I cannot even imagine what it is like to be an air traffic controller at Miami International during that window. It has to be absolute white-knuckle chaos. Miami handles around 90% of all flowers imported into the United States by air. When those planes land, flowers are now unloaded immediately, moved into massive refrigerated cargo facilities, sorted by wholesaler, broker, and final destination. At this stage, there are USDA inspections, customs inspections, and the Customs and Drug Enforcement checks they're on top of imported flowers. Because over 90% of cut flowers in the U.S. come from Colombia and Ecuador, every shipment passes through U.S. Customs and Border Protection and often DEA screening at ports like Miami International. Why? Because those same trade routes have historically been used for drug trafficking. Flowers are high volume, perishable, and time sensitive, which makes them attractive to smugglers. So yes, flowers are actively searched. How the inspections happen is Customs does not open every box, but they do randomize inspections, targets inspections based on shipment patterns, canine sweeps, x-ray scans, and physical probing. Custom agents use long metal probes to pierce box and sometimes bunches of flowers to check for hidden substances. When that happens, you'll occasionally see holes straight through rose heads. I have seen it many times in my life. It happens a lot. I've lost more than one bunch of roses that all the heads had holes through them. It's happened. Sometimes a single bunch is damaged, sometimes multiple stems are affected. It's not careless, it's intentional and legal inspection. Once a box is cleared, it's released or resealed and released into the supply chain. Random quality checks, temperature checks again. They're constantly checked. Anything with disease, pests, excessive damage is rejected on the spot. Those flowers do not move forward as a premium product. However, by the time those flowers reach Miami wholesalers, regional distributors, or local florists, the inspection has already happened. Wholesalers don't always know which box was probed. They just receive a cleared product. So occasionally a florist opens a box and finds rows with puncture holes. Like I've said, I've seen it many times. That's not grower damage. It's not wholesaler mishandling. That's just a customs inspection. And side note, here's another interesting connection with this probing and customs and banking and compliance. When I was in the process of buying our first store, we had to have a background check to open a business checking account as a florist. And I thought, why? I had no idea this was common until it happened to me, but florists dealing in imported products often trigger additional compliance at banks because they're purchasing, or you're purchasing internationally. You may be writing or wiring money or paying foreign suppliers. The product originates in high-risk trade regions. Banks are required to follow Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering regulations. So yes, some florists get flagged for additional verification, have to explain import activity, face extra paperwork just to open bank accounts. It's annoying, but it's normal in this industry. So moving on, once everything is inspected and released, then starts organizing for all the boxes to be picked up or delivered for delivery distribution. Large shipments are broken down, boxes are relabeled, orders are separated for wholesalers, regional distributors, direct to farm wholesale contracts. Flowers are then loaded onto refrigerated semis, smaller regional cargo flights, overnight freight systems, refrigerated box trucks, all while staying cold, always cold. And the final leg is to our wholesaler. Within 24 to 48 hours of landing in Miami, roses are already in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, or in our case, Indianapolis or Cincinnati. From there, and within days of being cut, even though they've traveled thousands of miles and crossed international borders, once the flowers arrive at our wholesaler in Indianapolis or Cincinnati, we either go pick them up or we have them delivered to our shop. Once they arrive here, they get unpacked, processed, given fresh cuts, placed into clean buckets with preservatives, and sent straight into cold storage. And then the real fun begins. It used to be that 2 days before Valentine's Day, it was normal for us to work 12 to 16 hours just trying to get ahead. But the orders never stopped coming in. So by February 13th, we would be working 18 to 22 hours straight, getting most of it done, grabbing a couple hours of sleep if we're lucky, and then coming back in early to finish deliveries and wrap up for the day. I do not miss those days. Now, I'm old. I require sleep. I have a plan and a system. So when you put all of this together, the growing, the deadheading, the labor, the climate control, the inspections, the international shipping, the airports, wholesalers, trucking, timing, the losses, and finally the florist, that is why Valentine's Day roses are so expensive. It's not price gouging, it's not the florist, it's just the nature of an international beast. So when it comes to Valentine's Day, order early. That's the best way to get the most beautiful quality roses and mixed flowers without the biggest price tag. Yeah, a lot of florists will run a special for you. If you order early, you will get a special discounted rate on your Valentine flowers up until a certain point, and then it moves into the higher price bracket. So share this video with anyone who may be ordering flowers for Valentine's Day. Not only is it interesting, but it might just save them some money and score some brownie points in the process. I hope this answered any questions you've had about why Valentine's prices are so high, especially on roses. Everyone go have a wonderful day. Keep your snapdragons happy, your tulips smiling, and I will see you next time. Oh, and yes, we will also have tulips in for Valentine's Day too.